and a sense of trust between the different parties. And so it is part of our mission and something that we really want to do when we come into a country, to be able to help build bridges, to be able to help build those relationships so that moving forward we can continue to maintain our cooperation both for security and for the general improvement of life throughout the region.
The U.S. Ambassador to the Gambia, Edward M. Alford, for his part, described the work on the PAC remarkable achievement by the men in uniform.
The task that they did here today is quite remarkable. I heard about the state of the park before we came here. This process of renewal, of people coming together to take something and make it better, a selfless service for the community. It speaks of the best of human nature when we do something like that. Now, renewal's important, cooperation's important. It goes on from here. The community, you who have done so much, we'll have to ask you to continue your efforts here. This can be a wonderful place for people to meet, for older people, for children to play, for members of the community to come together, to socialize, to meet one another, to discuss things. But that will depend on building on what all of us have done here today, a continuing effort to not only maintain but improve the park. And I heard you, Lord Mayor, and I look forward to finding ways for us to help you with this effort.
The youths of the community, who were also on hand to take part in the cleaning exercise, promised to take proper upkeep of the park. For Grts News, I am Awa Jobate.
Well, time now to take our first break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the international news. Stay tuned in.
AfriCell brings you the most affordable 3G internet bundles ever.
Get your AfriCell Extreme 3G internet service for as low as $15 is only.
AfriCell 3G bundles starting from 50 megabytes up to 12 gigabytes.
12 gigabytes bundle for a tariff as low as $5 per megabyte.
And all bundles are valid for 30 days.
AfriCell Extreme 3G service for as low as $15.
To subscribe, please dial 120 and choose from the available 3G bundles.
For more info, call 113.
AfriCell Extreme 3G service.
For as low as 5 buttons per megabyte, stay connected to AfriCell's 3G network.
AfriCell.
When we say Extreme 3G,
it is truly extreme.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling.
Welcome back to the news. There are new developments in the ongoing conflict in Congo. M23 rebels say a host of conditions must be met before they withdraw from the eastern city of Goma. They want President Joseph Kabila to hold talks, release political prisoners, among other things. Meanwhile, thousands of civilians have fled the city and fears are mounting of a refugee crisis. ITV's Africa correspondent Rohia Kasha reports, and we would like to warn you that this story contains some very disturbing images.
The government's forces have gone. The rebels are in control. And in the hills high above Goma today, it seemed their grip was tightening. We are not here to take lives, but we want the government to come to the negotiating table. But they are not accepting, he says. But far beneath the soldiers, there is a different battle being fought. It is simply for survival. Since last week, tens of thousands have fled fighting and looting by soldiers as they retreated.
People here are, of course, used to despair. Conflict is a nightmare that's recurring. And once again, entire communities are on the move.
So now, in the shadow of the volcano, the ashes of war spread across a refugee camp. Regina left late at night clutching her children. She says their lives have been destroyed by the fighting.
This is a ballistic ward, if I can say.
At Goma's main hospital, Dr. Simplice shows me the youngest victims. Gloria, aged 5, and hit by a bullet. Emmanuel, now paralyzed at 15 years old.
It's entered here and came through here and destroyed the spinal cord here around.
And paralyzed him.
He paralyzed for life.
With this bullet?
Yes, this one.
Then there's Bahati, who lost his arm in crossfire.
Let them choose a stadium like football. If Manchester United and Chelsea want to play, they choose a stadium.
To you it's the same? It's just sport?
Yes, it's a sport, but they are playing in the ground of civilian.
And we find some of those injured players being treated at a hospital nearby. Government soldiers and rebel fighters side by side. He is M23 and he is M23, says this army lieutenant, but they're both my brothers. Outside, an army doctor enraged. He says the government's losing ground because they're not being paid and fed. They are losing the war, he says. But in Goma, as the humanitarian crisis grows, they are all losers.
Well, a delegation of Turkish and NATO officials will survey the Turkey-Syria border on Tuesday. Turkey asked NATO last week for Patriot anti-craft missiles batteries to better defend itself against any potential threat coming from inside Syria. And in Syria on Monday, there were airstrikes near a refugee camp along the border with Turkey. CNN's Our Diamond visited the border and she filed in this report.
This is just about as close as the Turkish military will allow us to get, but right behind us is the border with Syria. And those white tents you see, that is the refugee camp that is very close to the village of Atma. We were able to get a closer look a short while ago. Hundreds of people seem to be gathered on the Turkish side, and that is because earlier on Monday there were 2 Syrian airstrikes on the village of Atma itself that is around 2 kilometers away. It's the first time that eyewitnesses are telling us that it has been targeted since the Syrian uprising began. The 2 airstrikes so far reportedly landed in the fields, didn't cause any significant casualties, but it was enough to send people flooding across to the border fence. Earlier we spoke to 2 Turkish villagers who were telling us that right after the strikes took place, they ran to the fence in another location, lifted it up, and were helping people come across. بالمخيم طيب شو صار وينكم هلا يعني انت بقيت قاعد بالمخيم. We're speaking to a school teacher who's inside the camp. He's been living there for 4 months. He says that hundreds of people fled towards the border after the strike took place. واستاذ لما صارت أول ضربة مع السلامة. The Turkish military had asked us to move from our other location, but the teacher was just telling us that he's been living in the camp for 4 months. He said there are around 12,000 people who were there. He was in the process of giving one of his classes when the first strike took place, and he said that it was complete and total chaos. The children were screaming, yelling. The entire camp began trying to run for the borders for safety. Many of them have returned to the camp right now because they have no other option, and then there's still small groups of people waiting up close to the border where we just were. From this vantage point, you can see the refugee camp, and around 2 kilometers away, barely visible, the rooftops of some of the buildings of the village of Atma itself. It is a major logistical hub for opposition activists and for rebel fighters, a significant transit point. And it was also an area that many refugees fled to, doubling, if not tripling, the village's population because they thought that it would be safe, because of its proximity to the Turkish border. Arwa Damon, CNN, on the Turkey-Syria border.
Well, that report there by our Damon would take us to our second break. When we come back, we will take a look at other news.
The American Chamber of Commerce, AmCham, the Gambia, will be holding its second annual business dinner on Friday, November 30, 2012 at 7:30 p.m. at the Sheraton Hotel Resort and Spa, Brufut High, the Gambia.